Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of AB in the Films. I saw this film for the first time in its entirety in college. I was at film school at the time. We were in a script writing class, and we were watching this to examine the story arc in a character. And that is portrayed very well in The Godfather with Michael Corleone. Okay, if you watch the character, it's a great character study. I think I've said this on the show before. This film is great for a character study in a college course. Schindler's List I would put in there too. I mean, like when you watch Oscar Schindler, the way the character changes over the course of the movie. And that's portrayed in this as well. This has been declared as one of the greatest movies of all time, if not the greatest film of all time. Hands down, I think it's one of the best films of the 70s. In my opinion, I'm glad I saw it when I did, because I would not have understood this movie. And when I watched it in college, I had never seen the film until I saw it in college. Never sat down and watched it. I knew everybody loved it, and I knew the catchphrases from the movie and everything, and everybody has parodied this movie. Everybody talks about it. The acting is phenomenal. The screenplay is great. Everything's great about this movie. But I never saw it until college. And I don't think I've ever even talked about it on this show yet. A show called AB in the Films. And I waited until halfway in the 9th season to talk about The Godfather. That's amazing. But I think I talked about Goodfellas one time on this show, and I said I like it a little more than The Godfather. Well, guys, I've changed. You know, people change, and this movie is obviously better than Goodfellas. Not to say Goodfellas is not a good movie; it's a great movie. But Godfather, there's something about this movie that everybody loves, and I got many reasons. Here's the first reason. This movie, all right, let me just say this. When you're watching a 3-hour-long movie, and in general, people hear that number and they're like, oh, man, that's gonna take forever. When you're watching a 3-hour-long movie, and the characters are great, the story is great, the acting's phenomenal, the 3 hours are up, and you want the movie to keep going, you know you're watching a good movie, okay? You know these people have made a good film. And that's what I can say about this. And I'm actually going to talk about Godfather Part 2 in this a little bit as well, only because they're the only two I've seen. I have all three of them. I have that DVD pack. It's right behind the camera. But here, I'll talk about the movies real quick. The first Godfather I really love. Part 2 I think is just as good as 1. I don't think it's better. A lot of people say it's better than 1. I still like 1 a little more than Part 2, but it's up there. It's that good. You could watch 1 and 2 back to back as one long movie. You could. Part 3, I got about halfway through it, and then I saw the rest of it in another viewing. It was okay. It wasn't as good as 1 and 2, okay? That's how I feel about Godfather 3. So, the movie The Godfather, you know, okay, I'm gonna sit here and explain the plot, but why even bother? You've all seen this movie, you all know you all know what's in this, you all know the lines, you all know the characters. But I guess I'm going to talk about some of the things I like about this movie, other than what everyone else has already said about it. When this movie came around, Al Pacino was an unknown. Nobody knew who he was. I think the studio did not want Brando, and Coppola wanted him so badly for the role because he said, no, Brando's got to be Vito Corleone. He's got to be it. That has to be him. And the studio was very hesitant about that. I did know this. The studio did not want Al Pacino to play Michael. They wanted James Caan as Michael. And there's actually a screen test of James Caan acting as Michael next to Diane Keaton, and it's really bizarre to see that, you know, but they did not want Al Pacino. Al Pacino wasn't a known actor at the time, so no, the studio didn't want him, and Coppola kept fighting for him. It paid off. It worked. Because I can't imagine anyone else playing Michael Corleone, and I can't imagine anyone else playing Santino. I can't. That's like perfect casting. And of course, John Cazale is Fredo, and Robert Duvall, and oh my goodness, there's just so many. Abe Vigoda's in this. Oh man, it's so good, so good. So, you know, this is a movie about family. That's what I've heard. This is a movie about a family. And when you watch all the violence and the language and all that, mostly the violence, I mean, like, even for 1972, this is pretty violent. But then again, I've seen movies that are 10 times more violent than this. But what I love about this movie is not only Michael's story arc, but how the family changes throughout the film. Like, okay, the first, I think, 20, 30 minutes of the movie was the wedding scene. That's the only time in the movie that all the characters are having a good time and the family is together as a unit. Because immediately after the wedding, the dominoes start falling. I mean, if you think about it, really. And also, as I've said before, you know, Michael's story arc, he wants nothing to do with the family. He loves his family, yes, but he wants nothing to do with what they're doing, the business that they do. He wants nothing to do with that. He just got back from the war. But once his father gets attacked, that's when he starts to change. That was the moment. And in my opinion, his character makes a complete 180 when he's in the restaurant with Sollozzo, and he's got the guns in the bathroom, and that's one of the best scenes in the film. But this film has a lot of scenes like that are phenomenal. And of course, Marlon Brando. I mean, this guy did so many great movies, and this film. I mean, he did this film later in his career, but like, oh my goodness, it's such good acting. When when Sollozzo comes in, and he's talking to Don Corleone, and Santino's there, and Fredo's there, and Robert Duvall. It's such a great scene, and Santino interrupts and he's like, no, wait a minute, you're telling me that the Italians don't want to... As you see, I spoil my children. They talk when they should listen. And then everybody leaves, and he grabs me, and he's like, Santino, come on. Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking again. There's so many great moments like that.
Don't tell me you're innocent. Because it insults my intelligence. It makes me very angry.
The scenes when Michael can be really menacing in part one is, the first one is when he goes to see Carlo at the end, his brother-in-law.
Now, who approached you? Tattaglia or Barzini?
Barzini.
And the second is when he talks to Fredo about Mo Green.
Mike, you don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that!
Fredo, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
The film is so well done. I could watch this movie a dozen times. I love it that much. I love it that much. You know, there are times when you watch a movie and you're like, I'm so jealous of this movie. Like, I wish I had made it. That's how good it is. And there's a lot of movies in the 70s that I feel that about. You know, like Jaws, Saturday Night Fever, Alien. You know, movies like that. Like, I'm so jealous that this movie... Oh, like, this is such a good movie. Oh, man, everything's so great. It just clicks. It's perfect.
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good.
Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. Come here. You look terrible. I want you to eat. I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
It's too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
You know what? I'm actually going to watch this movie again right now. I'll see you guys later. See you in the next review. I'm going to go watch The Godfather now.